Welcome to the video tutorial for a lesson called What Are the Chances of That? Involves children flipping coins and throwing dice. It's a lesson in the probability strand that starts with a lesson called Which Way Up, moves on to this lesson, What Are the Chances? Then it goes on to the Pepsi Challenge lesson, then it goes on to a lesson called Three Dice. There's also another lesson you might want to explore, which is in the Thinking Half-Life, called Lesson 20, which is called Heads and Tails. So there's a whole strand of lessons developing children's understanding of probability, developing and thinking about probability. And I think this is important. A strong feature of the project is the focus on the word metacognition, which is children thinking about the thinking. And I think probability is really good to do that because it has meaning. It applies to their own lives. And it was interesting, a couple of weeks ago I heard someone talking about core maths, and in core maths they're applying probability to the understanding of medical problems, false positive testing and using decision trees. But actually it's still the fact that you could go and be tested for a disease and you could be in the clear, but that could be false. You could get the disease and that could be false. So this understanding of probability actually, I think people think, 1 in 1,000 it'll never happen to me. And I think we need to give them a chance to reflect upon that and to understand that probability isn't just a calculation, isn't a number, it means something. It's the chance, the likelihood of an event or something happening. And this comes from real data. So you've got really, in all of these lessons, it's the whole focus on theoretical probability, which the children calculate and work out, but actually there's an experimental probability that only approaches the theoretical probability when the sample size gets large enough. And it's worth focusing on these lessons. So in this first lesson, what are the chances? There are four activities, but really there are two practical explorations. And you could take them. I know people who've done the first part, tossing the coin, and spend the whole lesson on it, depending on the children, what the children are interested in. There's nothing wrong with doing that. This is the most flexible of all the probability lessons. Use it to find out your children's understanding of probability and how to calculate probability, how to explain and articulate and justify probability. Because what we want is we want children, when they leave school, to be able to ask the right questions about probability in their lives. I mean, a classic misunderstanding that happens very regularly in the news is the difference between relative and absolute probability. So someone's relative risk can double, but that means nothing because the absolute risk is still so small that there's no point in changing the behaviour. So there's recently, in the last few years, been loads of books on risk and understanding probability in people's lives. So this fits in with that. And if you want to explore the heads and tails further, do lesson 20. It's called Heads and Tails. Read the notes. There's no substitute for reading the notes in these files and using it to make the best decisions for your pupils. So you can look at all of these lessons. As I said, there are 5 potential probability lessons. Just look at them and decide which one you want to use. So this particular lesson starts with the story. You could start with the activity I start with, the Pepsi Challenge, which is 1 in 100-year floods. What does that actually mean? Because that is historical data. And if the floods are changing, we need to change the criteria by which we call 100-year floods, 1 in 100-year floods. And actually, I read, there was an article on More or Less, the programme on Radio 4, that said in every year there's a 64% chance that there will be 1 in 100-year floods. What does that mean? We use these terms all of the time, and children just, I don't think they ever think about them properly because they think probability is 1 out of 2, a bit like the Apple lesson, 1 out of 2. It's half, it's 50%. But what does that 50% actually mean? So in the start of this particular lesson, first activity, you tell the children, you give all the children a coin. Every child in the class gets a coin. You say to them, my friend, whatever, Mr. Such and Such next door, Mrs. Such and Such, has lucky coins. What does that mean? Does it mean they always come down heads or tails more often? And there's 2 in this class. Who can work out who's got the lucky coin? So the children flip the coin, say 15 times. It's always good to use odd numbers of probabilities because they think it's only fair if it's an even number, 8 and 8, if you do it 16. So I would always say, toss the coin 15 times, flip the coin 15 times. Who's got the lucky coin? Write your numbers down on a piece of paper and hold them up. Who's got the lucky coin? So the pupils have to decide who's got the lucky coin and why. What criteria makes it lucky? Is it that you get, if you toss the coin 15 times, is it that you get 8 heads, or 9 heads, or 10 heads? Or they've got to make a decision about what is lucky, i.e. getting it more often than you'd expect. So what is that? So then when you do it again, you say, okay, throw the coins again, and if their lucky coins are lucky, what does it mean? And obviously it won't happen again. Someone else will have a lucky coins, and they'll quickly now realise that there isn't a lucky coin. It's just the nature of tossing a coin. So how do they explain that? That some people got, say, 10 heads and 5 tails, or vice versa, and then next time they got 7 and 8, or whatever. Allow them to explore the meaning of probability and what does 50% actually mean. And then also links to a while ago, a few years ago, the England cricket team kept losing the toss, so they just felt tossing a coin wasn't a good way of deciding the outcome of a cricket match. Because people have all sorts of weird ideas about probability and luck, and the fact that if it's a head, it can't be a head next time, because what you get once, it determines the next one. So there's lots of issues that you can explore here. The second activity involves the giving them coins, giving them dice, and saying, 6 or 10, which is easier to get and why? And they've got to work it out and come up with a way of starting to explore combinations and permutations, and why are there more ways of getting 10 than 6 with 2 dice. This is followed up in lesson 16, which is called 3 dice, which takes us into real depth. There's a lot of exploration you can do there. But really, it's a lovely introduction to probability, finding out how much your children know about probability, how secure their understanding is in terms of the meaning of probability. There are 2 further activities. We suggest showing a video clip of Roy Sullivan Jr., who was a forest ranger who was struck by lightning 6 times. There's quite a few humorous clips on YouTube showing this poor guy being hit by lightning with his poor long-suffering wife. But the discussion is, was he unlucky? Was he just unlucky? Or were there other factors that might lead him to be struck by lightning more often than others? The fact he was a ranger in the forest in a place where there were lots of lightning strikes, might that change his chance? And then you can talk about the lottery and what does it mean what do these chances actually mean? And all these different games they're bringing out. Why do they do that? You could even talk about legislation on fixed odd betting terminals and the math behind the probability in slot machines. And people are never going to win because it's only a certain proportion of times that the jackpot comes up. But what we've also included is a whole range of question sheets that the pupils can do following these probability lessons. There are 4 of them. And it's worth exploring these and choosing which class to come to. Some of these could work with older pupils. So in this particular situation, it's the children have to calculate the probability of different reptiles' eggs, because when it's hot, when it's 33 degrees, if they're incubated, they'll all be male, but at 30 degrees, they'll all be female. And if it's a bit between those, there will be different proportions of male and female. So they've got to work out that at 30.5 degrees, 90% are females. And it gives you some questions to answer, to kind of ground it in the sort of questions they're going to be required to ask unaided. And I think these are lovely to do as group activities, to share them, to say, what have you been talking more about? Because we are focusing on children reflecting on the thinking, what are they thinking more about, and how to apply that to their lives. A term we use for that is bridging.